Welcome to In Touch with Terry, a power-packed podcast for the medical aesthetic industry that brings you expertise and authenticity, but more importantly, solutions that have proven to increase profitability, employee efficiency, attract, convert, and retain more patients, and feature some of the top industry experts as guests. This is Season 5, Episode 47, titled The Value of a Forecast and Setting Goals in 2022. And now, here's Terry Ross.
Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Oh my God, I can't believe we are already nearing the end of January, but I am back. In Touch with Terry is back to kick off 2022 with Season 5. Thank you so much. I really want to take an opportunity to acknowledge all of you for tuning in, for listening, for liking, for commenting. This podcast would be nothing without all of you. So again, thank you so very much. And more importantly, for taking the time to invest in yourself and in your business, because at the end of the day, that is what this podcast is all about. I wanted to start off 2022 going beyond our limiting beliefs, okay, that good is acceptable, because mediocrity is not acceptable. And we are in such a competitive environment these days that we have got to step out of our comfort zone where curiosity lends to possibilities. So I want to ask you a few questions before we get started diving deep into this podcast, which we are going to be talking about the value of forecasting and why setting goals in 2022 is important. And I know, we're all trying to, again, get skinny, make more time for our family, eat healthier, whatever it is that we set our intentions to. But I really want us to look at our business. I say this often, as providers, you also are entrepreneurs. And so it is really critical that you don't accept mediocrity, that if your teams are not performing at the level that you expect, we can't keep them, or we have to coach them to be better. And when we look at goals, how do we get to the other side quicker, faster, smarter? I'm going to help you get there. So we're going to talk about really the importance of forecasting and setting goals for 2022. So here's a few questions before we get started. What was your net profit last year? What was your provider's revenue per hour? Do you know what those benchmarks are? What % capacity is your staff and your team operating at? And what procedures are you promoting? Do you know if they're yielding the highest return on investment? And what are your financial goals for this year? And how are you going to get there? And how are you going to achieve them? I know that this is an area where most practices struggle with. And that's why on this podcast, we are going to share some amazing facts to help you get started. What we're going to cover is, what is a forecast? Why forecasting is so important, what information you need to get started, and other factors that play into what goes into forecasting. So before we get into a deep dive conversation, let's define some key terms that I think are going to be really important for you. So what is a forecast? A forecast is a model showing the expected result of how your company is going to perform in the future. It ultimately becomes, you guys, your roadmap for your business, and it provides a clear understanding of your predicted revenue potential based on the facts that are believed to be true. What is an operating budget? It uses your forecasted revenue as well as your expenditures, not just your expenses, over a period of time. So why is forecasting so important? Again, without goals, how do we get there? I still put in the directions in my navigation, even if I know how to get there. But when we look at our business, we can't just say, hey, I want to grow 20% next year. Where? Where do you want to grow? What procedures do you want to do more of? What do perhaps you want to eliminate? How are you compensating your team in relation to those goals so it makes sense and you're making money and not losing money? So forecasting is critical, guys, to the success of your business, of any business, frankly. So creating a forecast is important for a couple of things. Helping you decide in advance how your money is going to work for you, to get a real picture of your practice finances. And how are you going to project your revenues over the next 12 months? It's also vital for the sustainability and profitability of your business. So you must really take the time, guys, and understand. I know this is a scary thing for a lot of people. It doesn't come natural. It doesn't come easy. That's why in our Apex platform, we have built these financial tools and courses and calculators to help you learn how to do that. So it takes the guesswork out. But it's far more effective when you have goals to be able to sit down with your team during a monthly meeting and say, Hey, Susie, listen, this is what you did last year. I want you to grow 20%, but here's why. And here's how I'm going to help you achieve that. So when you're able to sit down and show facts, right? Not just a conversation or not just pure numbers that don't make any sense. You're able to have a logical conversation with your team based on historical data. And then more importantly, be able to show them how they are going to achieve that goal where they're not feeling unmotivated or frustrated like they can't hit that goal. So at that point, you're able to talk to your team and perhaps discuss any vacations planned or time off that could affect that forecast. Again, this is why forecasting is so important because it's not talking about the now, it's talking about the future. It's also a phenomenal conversation piece to talk to your stakeholders, perhaps any owners of the organization, your providers, as well as your CPA and your bookkeeper. So in the end, your forecast basically becomes a roadmap that helps you effectively strategize the growth of the business. Your forecast helps you avoid any surprises. It allows you to deal with any potential cash crunches and issues that you might have. I know we can imagine we were getting inundated with calls when COVID first hit, and it's crazy that it's almost 2 years ago. But people didn't have enough cash reserves in the bank. We can't afford to be operating again at a loss. So it helps you ultimately be in control of your finances within your practice. So let's talk about now getting started. What information do you need? That's what we often get asked. Terry, what information do we need to get started? So as I mentioned before, there are many different models to use when forecasting assumptions, but some of the key information that you are going to need to know, and you guys hear myself and my team talk about this all the time. It's one of the most critical KPIs you must know to be able to measure exponential growth, and that is your revenue per hour by service category. So how many providers do you have in your practice? How many total hours do you have available for them to sell? I'm going to give you an example, okay? So for example, you have a nurse practitioner who's full-time. Full-time is traditionally 2,080 hours. And then of those 2,080 hours, what percent of the time are they available to sell? So there's a lot of calculations that go behind this, and you can read more in our blog, but that's one of the first things that you're going to need to know is revenue per hour. So once you determine what that is, you're going to look at those numbers, you're going to compare them to some benchmarking data of the past 12 months, and that becomes your baseline forecast. Now, listen, I know this sounds like a lot, and it is. So I invite you to check out the blog on forecasting. It was just published, and we give you a step-by-step guide on how to do that. But more importantly, if you are not part of our Apex platform family, I would totally invite you to go check it out. It's 20 minutes of your time worth a lifetime of success because we teach you in our finance course. And more importantly, we provide you with the tool and the forecasting element to be able to do that. So other factors to consider when forecasting. So when you create a forecast, it's really also very critical to look at seasonality. People say, God, what does that mean, Terry? You can't just say, we did 4 million divided by 12, and this is the goal. And guys, a lot of people tend to do that. That's not really fair and it's not accurate. We really want to get very granular when we're talking about forecasting and goals. So seasonality is the percentage of each month of sales represented to the total year. For example, the first week or so of January, they're typically slower months, as well as August and September, at the end of the summer because people are traditionally taking vacations. Perhaps you're living in a resort area. I know I'm in Southern California, right? Where summers and winters may be great, but the rest of the year is also dependent on population. So looking at seasonality is really critical. What percent of the time are you doing certain procedures? And that becomes your seasonality. Retail sales is also really critical, guys. Most people, again, we talk a lot about our benchmarks, but your retail should be 20% at least of your total revenue. Now, we know this is straight up profitability, but we want this to be part of a treatment plan, not an ad hoc, like if you want this and perhaps you need this. We really want this to be built in your consultation process. And you guys know that's my jam. I teach that all the time. It's so critical. And I don't want to hear anymore, I'm not a salesperson and that's not what they came in for. And perhaps they can't afford it. Guys, we are all salespeople. At the end of every day, we are selling ourselves, our experience, our value, our expertise, your outcomes. That is what you're selling. And so if you don't tell me that I need it, I'm going to go someplace else. And so I really want you to sort of reshift your mentality around that if it's something that you struggle with a little bit. And I really want you to believe wholeheartedly that it's your obligation as a provider that if I come see you, building a treatment plan that requires retail is really critical. So what percent of the retail sales that are occurring each month, again, not just against your total, but against your service sales? So this is an easy number for you guys to increase because again, we know that this is 100% markup and statistics show women, even men now, it's crazy numbers, are really looking to, look better and feel better. So in conclusion, I know this was a lot of great stuff, but I wanted to kick off this year talking about something that we just can't push to the side. We can't fail to ignore it. We can't pretend that we don't need to do it. If you've chosen to be an entrepreneur, if you've chosen to be in business for yourself, if you've chosen to take care of patients that are paying you cash, right? A lot of money. You chose to have an overhead and a brick and mortar and team. Again, your culture and your leadership and your ability to run a highly successful practice is all dependent on the expectations and the accountability of what you expect of your team. So, with the economy and COVID still causing so many unknown factors and unpredictability in terms of regulations, capacity, safety precautions, there's so many unknown factors. However, if you don't set a forecast, if you don't set goals, you're not going to have the roadmap. So therefore, you're not going to end up where you really, really want to be. So you can blame the unexpected later. Okay, but what we can plan for now is that we recommend you stop doing the things that you've been doing in the past and start looking into the future and looking how you can have exponential growth in 2022. So now more than ever, it's important to have these goals. It's important to have cash reserves in the bank. It's important to understand the different metrics of what a med spa should do versus what a plastic surgery practice should do. If you need assistance building your forecast, please remember our expert team, Apex Platform. We are always here to help you and support you drive to achieve those goals. Our goal is to ensure your highest level of success, practice, team efficiency, more important, the profitability of your business. So again, in our Apex Platform, we go through a robust sales training course where we provide all of these financial calculators, these financial tools, not to mention training courses in sales and in operations. We have really made this platform such a platform where if you looked at what we did, and you guys kind of know the story, right? You can hire us. Absolutely hire us, right? And we can be there to hold your hand. But you get the best of both worlds. You get an expert team in addition to an on-demand platform. So if COVID has taught us nothing else, Zoom, we know that on-demand learning is critical and it's here to stay. So stop wasting time trying to think you can do it yourself. Again, I always say if you want to cross the bridge further, faster, we're going to get you there. Okay. So again, thank you so much. I hope that you found this kickoff podcast for 2022 insightful, impactful, because this is the shit, guys, that's going to move the needle. Okay. Having your goals in place, knowing what procedures are the most profitable, knowing what your revenue per hour is, knowing how to compensate your team, knowing what to spend in marketing in all the right places. This is the magic, guys, right? We have enough proven testimonials to prove that. So I'm so honored to be back in action. We start getting on the road. Oh my God, this week. For those of you guys that are going to be at Medical Spa Show, please stop by our Apex Platform booth. I cannot wait to see you. If you found this episode valuable and you want to make an impact in your business, I invite you to like this episode, share it with your team, and more importantly, leave us a review. I admire you guys so much for listening and tuning in, and that motivates me, and I want to hear what you guys want more of. And if you are ready, if you are truly ready to kick some ass and create change for your business, I invite you to click the link below and schedule a demo at apexplatform.com. Again, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of In Touch with Terry. Ciao.